Okay, so this module will run on a weekly basis, Monday morning, 9 to 12, and the way that it will run is as follows. So my contact details, if you haven't had any classes with me last year, my name is Vasilios Adamos, you can just call me Vas. My office is in A202B, so that's Anglesey, second floor, second room of the second room, I guess. And my email address is firstname.surname@portis.uk, just like all of our emails basically are. Now, everything that you will need to know about the module will always be located on Moodle. Actually, the material should already be there. So if you scroll through the weeks and expand them, you should be able to see most of the labs and lectures and lab sheets available for this module. The last 3-4 weeks, I think, are hidden only before Christmas because I haven't decided what I will do towards the end of the module yet with regards to material that I need to give to you. All right, so how are we going to run this? First of all, so this is the network simulation module. So what we'll do is we'll learn some techniques and we'll learn how to use some software in order to create networks and simulate their behavior, see how they basically behave, depending on the traffic that we put on them, the protocols that are being used for their interconnection, the end nodes, and all of the in-between nodes that are used in the network, and so on. So it would be a very good idea if you brush up a little bit on your network protocols from the first year. What is IP, what is the ISO 7-layer model, and so on and so forth. Basically, I would like you to know pretty much what happens, or the theory behind what happens, when you try to create a communication stream from one node to another. So you have the application, so application level, you create all of your data, and then you package that data in a specific way. You compress it maybe encrypt it a little bit, and then stick it onto a communications medium, onto the channel. Then that needs to be packed in a specific way again, or compressed, and so on. Then that's sent down the medium, routed, forwarded in any way that is required, and then it reaches its destination. All of the unpacking that takes place, all of the redundancy checks and everything else that happens at that point, and so on. So I would like you to have in mind what the process is of actually sending some data over from one place to another, from one node to another in a network. So our classes will run weekly in A203. So can you please mute microphones? Thank you. So our classes will run weekly in A203, 3-hour-long sessions, and it will be a lecture plus lab session. So we will start at 9 o'clock, and I will have lecture slides, and I will go through them in the beginning, explaining the theory that is relevant to that week, to what I want to deliver to you that week. So it is a bit important that you do actually come on time. I know it's a Monday morning, 9 o'clock. Believe me, I hate it just as much as you do. But this is what we were dealt with this year. So just please try to be there on time. Okay. So I'll go through the lecture. The lecture won't last usually more than, let's say, half an hour, 20 minutes. It's not, it's not too much information in there. And then we'll get on with the lab sheet that is available for that particular week and work on that lab sheet until 12 o'clock, until the end of the lab. Of course, you can always go into the lab, and of course, you can always connect remotely into the lab and work on the material on the software that we'll be using, which will be Riverbed Modeler, as much as you like in your own free time. There's no limitation to that. Now, what we will be doing for this module, there will be 2 assessments. So it's coursework and exam. They're worth 50% each. So the way that they will be structured is the coursework, which is 50%. You need to perform all the tasks in the lab sheets. You need to write a logbook about them. And the deadline for this will be the 5th of December, 2022. So 5th of December, by 11 o'clock at night. All coursework should have a deadline of 11 o'clock, really. Now, there is a significant difference to the way that I've been teaching this module in the past years, and there's a very good reason for this. So in the past, I would do all of the lab sessions in the lab, and all the students would come and work in the lab, and then there would be a separate piece of coursework in the end for the students to do. However, this year will be the last year that we were using this particular piece of software, Riverbed Modeler. And the reason for that is because they haven't been really keeping up with the technologies and everything else, so their libraries are not to a satisfactory level anymore. I think the problem is that the company Riverbed that bought the software is slowly trying to kill it off because they have their own software that is sort of a competitor to this, and so it's no longer fit for purpose for us. And also last year they hiked up the price. I think, if I remember correctly, it tripled. So it's not worth our investment. If it was as good as it was in the past, then we would pay the money and keep it, but it really isn't. So next year we'll go with something else. So one of the side effects of this is that our current licenses for the software end on the 8th of September. So beyond the 8th of December. So beyond the 8th of December, you will not be able to work on your coursework on the software itself. So it is very important that you come into the labs and you do all of the lab sheets. Of course, because I will be in the labs as well, and I will be able to help you out with them also. Get the results, get the screenshots that you want and everything else, create a logbook, put everything in there, and then use the last few days in order to maybe tidy up the logbook if you want, go through it once again and make sure that everything is as it should be. The only difference, the only exception to this rule, to this process, will be people that have ECF. So if you have an ECF, then you're supposed to get 10 working days to work on the coursework beyond the deadline. Obviously, you will not be able to, because the deadline is on the 5th and the software expires on the 8th. However, if you have missed the coursework deadline for some reason, unless you've been off sick for a month or so, then you can make up the last few lab sheets in those last 3 days. Or you can basically work on the logbook and make sure that you tidy up all your screenshots, explain everything and so on those extra 10 working days that you will get, and submit after 2 weeks and get full marks. So it is very important that you remember that past the 8th of December, there will be no software to use. So if we do get any problems, we'll sort them out at that time. Okay, theoretically, with the deadline being on the 5th, we should really be okay. But it's just very important that you do come to the labs, you work on the labs on a weekly basis, use the consolidation week in the middle. I think it's end of October, if I remember correctly, 29th of October, and make sure you catch up and sort everything out. And then make sure that way that you don't really need to do much before you actually submit the coursework for the deadline. The deadline coursework will just come and you can just submit all of the work that you've been doing across the semester and be done with it. The other assessment for this module will be an exam, and that's 50% of the unit, and it will be an oral exam. So this will essentially be a mini viva, a mini interview, me versus you in my office. You will come one-on-one. It only lasts 5 minutes. I will ask you some questions. You need to be able to answer those questions, and that will be it. I will give you the questions that you'll have in advance so that you will know and you will be prepared for them. So don't panic. It will be 4 questions. Okay. And you have 5 to 10 minutes to answer everything. It should really. I've been doing this for years, and very few people's vivas have lasted more than like 7 minutes. Okay. So it might sound scary in the beginning, but it's not really. It's just casual conversation between me and you, asking you stuff, seeing if you know it. Now, it is set to run during the January exam period. However, we also have the ability to actually run it on the last Monday of the semester before Christmas. So this way, you will not have one more exam to worry about in the January period, and you will have all of the material fresh in your mind from what we've been doing in the semester. So we can actually have the exam for this on Monday, the 12th of December. So that will be exactly 1 week after the deadline of the coursework. Now, I would like to ask your opinion on this and see if you would prefer to do it that way. So would you prefer to have the exam on the 12th of December or leave it for the January exam period when we come back? I'm seeing mostly yeses in the chat. Okay, so then the other thing that I would like you to do is I would like you to go to your timetables, please. And I would like you to look at the 12th of December, which is a Monday. If I start the exam at 9 o'clock in the morning, give you all a window of 15 minutes because, you know, people need to come and go and so on, then that will take us up to something around like 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I would like you all to have a look and see if you have anything, any other classes after 12 o'clock when we finish with mine. Please look on your calendars, on your timetable, and look at the 12th. Don't look at today. Yes, so somebody does have a lesson from 2 to 5. Okay. So you all seem to have something 2 to 5. 12, 2 to 5. Okay. So I will see what I can do. Would you mind? We can volunteer 4 people to start before 9 o'clock, so we can start the exam at 8. And then we'll definitely be finished by, let's say, 1:30. Okay, so what I will do is I'll go on Moodle some point this week and I will create a timetable essentially. So I will create a spreadsheet that will be a Google Doc. Okay, and I will create all of the appointment slots, and then you can go in and put your student number in the appointment slot that you would like to have. All right, so we can do that, or really we can do it in class if you prefer next week in person. So I can ask you, I can fill in the slots at that point, and then we can sort it out like that. Okay, either way, you'll pretty much be able to choose the appointment slot that you want, and I'm pretty sure it can fit us all in to have that on that day. Okay, so yes, so we'll have the exam on the 12th. That's good. And we can take it from there. I will prepare you and I will explain everything, and you will have the questions beforehand, so there's no need to panic about it. Yes. Now, what will you get out of the module itself? We'll get numeracy, research, analytical skills, and problem solving. So the idea is that you learn how to simulate a computer network in a piece of software, create all of the environment that the network exists in, create all of the traffic, create all of the configurations and everything else, and then run that network and see what happens to the data. That way, you'll be able to basically fix any problems with a network. The whole purpose of having network simulation software is to try out network configurations, network topologies, network technologies that we want to use in them, and see if they basically all work together before we actually deploy the network itself into a real-life scenario. So this is helpful because it's better to be prepared, better to have a test environment that's virtual. It doesn't cost too much. You only need to pay for the license to the software rather than buying the equipment, figuring out that the equipment is not actually fit for purpose, and then realizing that you have to do it again. Okay, so what we get out of this is you get the ability to basically design a network, figure out what works best, and then apply that onto a real life scenario, onto a real life network. You will also, of course, learn how to use a network simulation software like Riverbed Modeler that we use, and by extent, other network simulation packages like GNS3 and so on, or like packet tracing and so on. The principles of operation are all pretty much the same. So you create the environment, you simulate it, see what happens, make improvements. So we'll have the lectures in the beginning of the class. So I will give you the theory and I will explain some of the theory, and I will explain how the theory is implemented onto the networks that we want to use and so on. And then we will have the labs, which basically are split into different topics that we have every week. So we learn in the beginning how to basically start up the program and use it, how to generate traffic. We'll play around with a little bit of routing in the software, see what happens. So for example, you can do nice things like creating a network, killing a link for a specific amount of time of the simulation, see how all the traffic reroutes in that network through backup routes and everything else, and so on. We'll create some traffic profiles so that we can see how we can actually model traffic in the software and create a situation where we can have traffic that is either actual real life traffic or simulated traffic as close as possible to an existing network, and then model that network in the software and get some results, maybe do some improvements, do some optimization of some protocols in order to always, I mean, our end goal is always to have a network that is as fast as humanly possible. There is some recommended reading for the module, and of course, please let me know if you have any more questions. I'm not going to give you any theory or anything today at all. So I will leave that for next week in the lab, because the theory that I have pretty much ties up with the lab sheets themselves. All right. Do you have any questions about all this? Would you like me to recap the coursework and exam for this module again? Yeah, I think I'll do it anyway. So we work in the lab every week. You come in, we have lab sheets, you have a logbook. So, okay. So we work in the lab every Monday. You come 9 to 12. Each week is a different lab sheet. I think there are a couple of lab sheets that I've left them on for 2 weeks because they're slightly more complicated. Okay, you do the work. You get some screenshots of the network configuration and the topologies that you've used, and you get some screenshots of the results that you've created. You then will need to have some small discussion of the results that you created and have got in your logbook, and that will basically be the story for pretty much every one of the lab sheets in there. It's better to actually come into the lab every week, do the work, get my help while we're in the lab, because if you do it on your own, you might get stuck somewhere. There's only 20 of us, so I think I can easily manage all of you in one class. So we should be fine. And do all the work. And then by the time of the deadline, 5th of December, you won't really need to do anything additional rather than actually check your logbook, check that everything is in order. You have all of the materials, all of the questions answered and everything else, and be done with it. As I said, the software license expires on the 8th of December, so please try to make it on time for the 5th. Okay, if you have an ACF form and something goes wrong and you miss a lot of lab sessions, then we'll deal with that problem once it comes to it. All right. And then there will be an exam, which is the other 50% of the module. It's not a written exam, it's an oral exam. So it will be you and me for 5-10 minutes in my office with appointments. And we can run this on the 12th of December because I prefer it as well. You'll have all of the information fresh and won't just come back after the Christmas break and remember nothing. It will be 4 questions. I will give you the questions in advance. All the questions will, of course, be based on the material that we've done in the lab sheets. So it will be from the lab sheets and everything else. So we'll have an oral exam. Of course, that will be recorded. So because, you know, it needs to be moderated as an assessment. And that's it. So we'll arrange appointments for this. I think we can arrange it. I think it's better if we arrange it in person next week when we're in the lab. I'll create the appointment slots, and then you can just tell me in which appointment slot you basically like to attend, and we'll do it like that on the 12th of December. Okay. Any other questions, anybody? No? Excellent. Thank you very much, and I'll see you all next week. All right? Take care.